Welcome to T&R Series, where I collaborate with special guests and often industry experts. Subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and hit the notification bell to get updates on new content. Are you looking to get your home prepped for sale? Then this video is for you. I had the opportunity to chat with the designer in Toronto, Vanessa Manno. Vanessa and I actually took the same postgraduate program together in sports and events marketing, and now both have ventured into real estate, and I'm super excited to have the chance to chat with her about some of the work that she's doing. And Vanessa, when she started off in the industry, she started working for her family, and now she's kind of ventured off on her own, working on sourcing properties to build on, working in trades and designing homes. Past year, she has taken on her own clients, and she's been helping her clients with the renovations and flip projects and bringing their goals to life. In our conversation, we talk about getting your property ready for sale, as well as some design tips and the process when a designer is involved in a transaction. Now let's go check out my conversation with Vanessa. Hi, Vanessa. Super excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining me today for this conversation. I am super excited to have you because I know that you mentioned you're a huge design enthusiast and that you love the process of design and creating things with your, with things that are from scratch and crafty work. So tell me a little bit about some of the stuff that you're working on now. I know that you mentioned that you're designing your own home.
Yeah, so I got married in 2019, and my husband and I have been working on our first home together. In light of COVID and having a little extra time on our hands, we're finishing our basement, hoping to do a little bit of DIY things. We're always finding things on TikTok actually, and we're like, oh, that's a cool craft or a cool project. Let's do that. So getting our hands dirty with that. And I love artwork. So I've been working on a few art pieces for myself.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's nice having this break kind of with COVID to get my hands dirty and of course influence my own design at home.
That's awesome. I'm not sure if you know, I'm also an artist and I have art all over my place. That the piece behind me is my own work. I love that, Vanessa. I noticed that about designers that when they do a lot of work, they put a little bit of touch of their own personality into it. So I really like that. I was telling my husband that we're gonna hire you to design our future home. Yeah, 100%. I was looking at all the stuff that you were working and wow, no, it's beautiful. So to start off, so how did you get into real estate and particularly design?
Yeah, so in 2015, I actually got my real estate license, and this was just coming off of a previous season of my career where I was doing marketing and events, which you know all about because that's how we met in the program.
Yeah.
So I was working in event and PR marketing, and I was really loving it. It was like fashion based and all things pretty, but there was nowhere for me to grow at the company any longer. They weren't really based out of Canada, so I just didn't have anywhere to move up, and that's okay. Sometimes that happens, but just so serendipitously at the same time, my family company was growing. So that was just a perfect opportunity for me to join them. My dad builds custom spec homes, and he said, why don't you just get your license, come and help us? And I said, okay, why not? So I got my license then, and I started working with my family. And of course, building custom spec homes, such a big part of real estate.
Yeah.
I had to start finding properties for us to build on.
Yeah.
And of course, at the very end, I had to sell them as well, the finished product. My dad was taking care of all of this before, and then he started to really, show me the ropes, and we started working together. And then after that, once I got my feet secure in the real estate part, I started learning and meeting all of the trades, going to the job sites, learning all about that. And then that's what like really sparked my interest. I'm like, okay, that happened for a reason. Like this is where I'm meant to be. And yeah, we have like a little family business going, and that's what I'm mainly focused on now. And of course, I'm helping other people realize their real estate / design dreams as well. So it's a new venture and a new thing for me, and I'm really loving it.
I can totally see it. This is totally your vibe. And I wanted to, now let's get into some design stuff. So what is it like what's the process? Can you give us some design tips when you're getting to sell your home? I wanted this to be useful for a lot of my seller clients as well.
Yeah, so when you're selling your home, I like to stick to like 3 main rules. The first one, and I'm sure you know this with all your sellers, is declutter. You know, personal touches throughout your house are amazing when you're living there, but some things may be super personal, like, you know, the gallery wall of your family, or if you have a really unique collection. And while those things are beautiful, any buyers that are coming into your home are going to see that, and it's going to be hard for them to, you know, see themselves in your space. So declutter, take those things away, depersonalize your space, and ultimately that's going to be a benefit for you because you'll probably have tons of buyers coming in and being able to see themselves there.
Awesome.
The second thing I would say is show off your home's best features. So if you have amazing architectural details, like, you know, really, really tall windows or beautiful doors, make sure you're highlighting that and showing it off. So, you know, draw the curtains on those windows. If you have an amazing open concept floor plan, rearrange your furniture to show that off if your furniture isn't already in that configuration. You know, buyers like to see good bones in a home. So that means, you know, things that they can't easily change. So like high ceilings, things like that, like show that off, draw attention there.
I see. So some like specialty things that are unique to that space compared to something else you would see across the board.
Exactly. So like if it's a character home, and you know, some of the older homes in Toronto have like beautiful old stained glass windows or something, like play into that, because you're not going to get that in every single home. There's one last thing, and I think that a little bit of an investment can go a long way. So, you know, we all get comfy in our home. So do you have mirrors that are kind of outdated, or lighting that's outdated, or even faucets? You can go to any big box store like Lowe's or Home Depot. They have an amazing selection of designer inspired furnishings or materials that you can purchase, and it's such a small investment, but it really brings like a wow factor. So, you know, $100 light fixture, bringing it into your space, it doesn't look like it's just $100 anymore. It really like breathes new life into a space. Another good investment would be painting. Like paint can do so much for a home. I actually have a little story. So there was a home that was for sale on my street, listed by another agent, and it was a beautiful home. This family loved color, so there was color everywhere. So tons of wallpaper, paint, all of that. And it sat on the market for like 60+ days, and this was in a hot market. And, you know, it like things like that, it just doesn't appeal to everybody. So the agent and the homeowner took the home off the market. They got painters in there, did a fresh coat of paint. I'm telling you, in 7 days it sold for the exact list price that it was previously. So those investments really make a difference, like for sellers.
Absolutely. You know, I noticed that about my clients too. When I sit with them and I tell them about, you know, updating your space, even small changes, not even if it's not a paint job, because you know, for them, it feels like they have to move a lot of furnitures and to bring a crew in to paint. Even as simple as rearranging and decluttering for your photos. I've noticed it, especially with virtual tours, in particular with COVID now. It's a popular thing that we're doing for all of our clients. I've noticed that every simple thing, it captures and you could see it. Literally simple dust on your ground, like on the floor, you could see it. So I was always advising clients, make sure you're decluttering, make sure you're taking things out of the way. And I love that. Even like bringing in a small fixture of light fixture or something that of small cost. I love that. So let's get into the next question. So what about the opposite side? What are some design fails that you notice in the industry and things to avoid?
Okay, so I think with this question, you have to consider, are you looking at a resale home, or are you looking at a professional renovation? So if you're looking at a resale home, it's hard to call something a fail, because, you know, everybody has their own style, and what I might love, you might consider a fail. So I always advise my clients, if we're going out and looking at a resale home, just take note of things that you don't like, or things that are like not your style. Let's take that back with us. Maybe we're going to start looking at pricing for those things. You know, if you had to change it, how much is it going to cost? And then if your offer gets accepted, you know, maybe you're doing a little bit of renovation when you move in. Or I'm sure you've seen this too, if it's like a super outdated bathroom, like from the 60s, you talk with your agent and maybe that becomes something you're negotiating with your offer.
Got it.
On the other hand, if it is new construction or a professional renovation, I think there are some fails.
Yeah.
I consider a fail in new construction or even a renovation is like just a bad floor plan. So, you know, really tight hallways, small rooms where the renovator or the designer or builder weren't considering how furniture is going to be in there, how, you know, someone's going to live in this space. Those are like, you know, no-goes and not good. Another thing to look out for, and I would consider a fail, is where's the placement of a washroom in relation to a kitchen? Like if your
Yeah.
washroom is opening into a kitchen, that's not good either. And the second thing that I would consider a fail is like just curb appeal that's not there, like an exterior, so the front of the house that just misses the mark. So
Yeah.
awkward placed windows or like, you know, a really flat front facade. There's nothing interesting. So the reason I think both those two things are fails are because they're such big ticket items.
Yeah.
Like if a washroom is in the wrong place and it's just a really bad spot, you're gonna have to get, you know, like contractors in there. There's a lot of work to do. And same thing with a front elevation. Like if the front elevation is super flat and you're thinking, you know, a porch would be nice or some kind of overhang, like that's not just a DIY kind of thing. So
Absolutely.
those are something I would consider, you know, fail areas or areas for improvement.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny. Recently, I was having a conversation with a buyer client, and she was super, particular about wanting a new property and a brand new pre-built and even pre-construction. And she was looking to compromising on timing to get a new space. And I was advising, because we're looking for a place, let's go look at some resale first. Let's look at what's out in the market that you can easily even touch up, like cosmetic work. And some of them are already, they're done beautifully, that they're a bit more not just affordable but also in terms of layout, there are a bit more flexibility on it. And I've noticed about a lot of pre-construction that, to your point, it could be brand new, but then the layout or something is missing, and often is built much smaller often than a lot of the resale properties that are interesting, because a lot of the time when people are redoing some of their older space, they're looking to open it up.
Yeah.
So interesting. Anyways, I was having this conversation with my buyer client, and it was really that pros and cons. And again, ultimately, it's what they're looking for, and we have to help make sure that we meet them halfway in that, right? In speaking about process and helping someone, prepping to sell their place. So what is that process from your end like when you're thinking about design, when you're prepping for a reno or a flip? And can you kind of walk us through your process of bringing your client and your vision to life?
Yeah, for sure. So if I'm working with someone on a renovation or a flip, and we're starting from step one, we're going out and looking at properties that have potential. So of course, you know, something that may need some TLC or like handyman work, and we'll also bring in other professionals. So, you know, maybe an architect or a structural engineer if big walls are coming down. So it's important that you have your real estate agent and you're looking for these properties, but just in the back of your mind, already be thinking like, who else do I need on my team? Oftentimes, I'm sure you know this too, that you can reserve one of your visits after your offer is accepted to have these people come in, and you can start to get the ball rolling and look at these elements together with your team. So that would be step one. You're looking for a property that has tons of potential and thinking who's going to help you. Step two, while you're looking for the property, you're also looking at comparables that are going to be similar to your end product. So what are other people in the market doing? What finishes are they putting? How many bedrooms are in the house? Do they have hardwood throughout? All things like that, because ultimately when you go to sell, you have to be at the very least the same or even better.
Mm.
So that's number two. Number three, after the offer gets accepted and you have all these numbers, so what you're going to buy for and what you're going to sell for, you really have to start thinking of your budget and know how much you're going to put in. It's so important at the first step when you're looking for a property that you're buying it for the right price, because like, let's face it, somebody who's doing a renovation or an investment, they're doing this to make a profit. So the first mistake is that if you're going out there and looking for a property and you're overbuying or like you're spending too much, that's eating into your profit right away. So having a designer or an agent or, you know, somebody who knows a little bit of both to kind of guide you and say, we shouldn't spend more than X because the construction is going to cost Y, will really help you along the way. So once we do get possession, we know what the comparables are going to sell for, what you hope to sell for. I start putting a finished schedule together and a kind of overall look and feel that we're going to go for with the house and the renovation. Oftentimes, when you're selling for a flip, you got to go neutral. So invest in good finishes, high quality finishes, things with warranties that are all neutral. So we want to focus on things looking good, but that anybody could see themselves using or living in this house. So after that, and that we have this proposal and this look, we start executing, we bring trades in, start working with kitchen manufacturers. And the number one thing that like presides over this is budget for sure. So we're always making sure we're sticking to budget. And you know, I think that if you follow all these rules, when you go to sell, you will turn a profit.
No, that's awesome. You know, what's really interesting is that often when you're meeting with a client or figuring out what project or transaction to work on, we talk about the goals, but we never really touch and talk about it throughout the process. And I've noticed that when I sit with someone and I talk about, okay, what is it that you want to obtain? Where do you want it? And what's your budget? And, you know, you're going through that initial conversation with them. I've noticed that once you get into actually looking at properties and sourcing properties, you often look at something and your needs and wants and your goals change because you are attracted to what's in the market. Have you noticed that? And then all of a sudden I'm just like, oh, but that's not, I didn't think you were able to afford this, or I didn't think you would like this. And you know, it's really interesting. Or I even had clients who would all of a sudden would email me a property and they're like, I love the way that this looks. And I'm like, but this is not where you wanted to buy. You know, it's really interesting. And I also liked one thing that you pointed out too, is that ensuring you're working with someone who is, you know, looking at the transaction at an overview, and they're looking at it in a way that they're, you know, serving your best interest throughout the full transaction. So right when you're putting in the offer, to ensure that you get those visits in, you know, if you're buying it for investment, make sure you're putting in a multiple visits so that you can bring in someone like yourselves, contractors, but also tenants. What if you wanted to have it rented out, so that you can start the process of marketing the property before it even closes, especially if you have a longer closing period. So thanks for pointing that out. No, those are great tips. What When talking about transaction and project, what stage are you brought in? So are you brought in, especially if you're not working as a realtor, and if you're brought in as a designer, what stage of the process are you consulted?
So sometimes I'll be one of the people who's coming to one of the buyer visits before they're closing. So, you know, I can walk around and get a feel for the space and start giving ideas. Other people choose to bring me in, you know, after they have the keys, they've taken possession, and I'm coming in for a meeting and we're sharing ideas. It depends on really when the buyer or my client sees fit. But I think that it's always good, especially if it's one of your first projects, start bringing these people on, like a designer like myself or an architect or whoever it may be, kind of early on. You know, sometimes I've seen this before. People are saying, yeah, I'm going to open up this wall and I'm going to put a massive kitchen and I'm going to this and I'm going to that. And then all of a sudden you get your contractor there, you get your designer, and you realize, oh, there's like structural things that we're not even going to be able to do that. Or, you know, it's going to cost a lot more to move this piece of the wall or whatever it is. So like having those people on your team early can kind of help you with your floor plan and ultimately again with your budget. So you would be thinking about that kitchen and a different layout before you're investing all of this money.
No, awesome. No, that's great. And I have this one bonus question for you. So where do you get your inspirations from? And I know that I was looking into some of the things that you were posting and your videos in the past, and you have such cool ideas. And so where do you get them?
So I think that first is travel. Not that we can be doing it right now, but I love hotel design.
Ah,
I love looking at that. So since I can't travel, I have books behind me. I love Architectural Digest.
nice.
And some of my favorite Canadian designers, I'm always looking at them for inspiration. So there's an amazing female designer out west. Her name is Nandang Mitchell. Love her. I love to look at her work. And I also love Brian Gluckstein. So I'm always looking at his work for inspiration as well. Again, pre-COVID, he's the designer of the Princess Margaret House, and he does one every year. So going into that house and really looking at finishes and design and layout from such an acclaimed and accredited designer is just so inspiring.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. So what are some ways people can contact you?
So you can go to my website, which is vanessamanno.com, and I'm also on Instagram at Vanessa Manno.
Awesome. Honestly, Vanessa, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. And really, I wanted to let's talk about this more often and really getting into the conversation about looking at a space. Maybe we can one day go look at a property and yeah, and I would love for you to give us some pointers as to some of the things that you would change, who you would have involved in the project. Anyways, I thank you for joining me for this conversation. I loved it. I learned so much from you, and I'm looking forward to working with you in the future, Vanessa.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.